Imagine transforming your local community spiritual center into a thriving zero-waste hub, and doing it without some massive million-dollar budget. Sounds kind of impossible, right? Well, today in this explainer, we're unpacking a highly practical roadmap straight from recent research that proves exactly how this is being done. We're going to look at how combining everyday physical infrastructure with behavioral psychology actually empowers community spaces to lead the charge on sustainability. Okay, let's dive into this.
So here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll start by explaining the green mosque concept and looking at the pre-intervention reality on the ground. Then, we'll implement the 4 pillars, uncover the real secret to lasting change, quantify that transformation, and finally, look at how to scale this blueprint everywhere. Section 1. Explaining the green mosque and how high-frequency spaces act as catalysts for real change.
You know, religious facilities like mosques have this incredibly unique position when it comes to sustainability. Think about it. Because they're used so frequently and hold such deep moral authority, they can normalize responsible behavior across the wider public in a way that, say, a government office building just can't. It's not just an environmental shift, it's a bridge across 4 distinct dimensions. Spiritually, it connects daily routines with the ethics of stewardship and avoiding excess. Socially, it brings the community together, fostering youth engagement and shared responsibility. Environmentally, it directly cuts down on waste and emissions. And economically, it slashes utility bills through smart resource efficiency. It's a total win-win.
Part 2. The pre-intervention reality, or the hidden footprints in our community spaces.
So before any changes were made, researchers did a baseline assessment back in 2026 at the Kulbun Shakar Mosque. And honestly, they found what you'd see at almost any local community center: standard, everyday operations that secretly leave a massive environmental footprint. Waste management basically meant one big bin where single-use plastic bottles were tossed right alongside leftover event food packaging. Water usage was a huge blind spot too, with completely unmeasured ablution water and taps just running at full blast. Plus, energy was being drained continuously. We're talking whole building lighting and cooling systems running constantly, even though people only really use these spaces in short, intermittent bursts throughout the day.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sharp contrast between those traditional, messy operations and the structured efficiency of the green mosque model. The old way meant mixed disposal, totally unmonitored excess water, and honestly, a huge burden falling almost entirely on the shoulders of a single caretaker. But the new model? It flips the script completely. It brings in 3-stream waste separation, targeted water flow adjustments, highly efficient spatial zoning, and most importantly, a formalized team with distributed roles so everyone shares the load.
Section 3. Implementing the 4 pillars, which are the co-designed socio-technical interventions. Let's see how they actually did it.
Pillar 1 is all about zero waste management. And listen, this isn't just about dropping a shiny new trash can in the hallway. It is a carefully designed 3-stream sorting station. By separating waste right at the source into organics for eventual composting, recoverable recyclables, and residual true trash, the mosque directly tackles the mountain of single-use plastics that usually piles up during community gatherings. They even set up strict new operating procedures to actively reduce single-use plastic reliance during events in the first place.
Next up, Pillar 2 tackles efficient ablution, and this is where the socio-technical genius of this blueprint really shines. It pairs physical infrastructure like actual flow adjustments on the taps and simple inventories, with ethical education rooted in Islamic teachings about avoiding excess during ritual purification. When you tightly link a physical water restriction with a deep-seated religious motivation, it normalizes water conservation so much better than just sticking a standard sign on the bathroom mirror. And this brilliantly illustrates Pillar 3, activity-based energy zoning. So instead of continuous utility use, where the entire building is lit up regardless of whether 2 people or 200 people are inside praying, they shifted to smart spatial zoning. Since community centers have such highly intermittent occupancy, adapting the schedule to only light and cool the specific zones currently in use is a super low-cost operational tweak that makes a massive impact. But here's the thing. None of those physical upgrades matter without Pillar 4, participatory governance. This is the human element. Responsibility is distributed perfectly, almost like gears in a machine. You have the takmir, or mosque board, acting as the policy owners. The mosque youth step up as the catalysts and peer educators. The marbot, the caretaker, manages the daily operations and technical checks. And the congregants themselves, they're the co-producers, actively practicing these habits and giving real-time feedback. Everyone has a role.
Section 4. The secret to lasting change, and why it goes way beyond just infrastructure.
This brings up a really tough question that we have to pause and ask. Is infrastructure alone actually enough to change ingrained habits? If you just plop down 3 beautifully labeled recycling bins in a busy corridor, is a community going to instantly and permanently change their behavior? Well, the reality of behavioral change is usually no. Even after those new bins were installed, congregants were still inconsistently sorting their waste. They were occasionally tossing things in the wrong streams, especially when they were rushing through their busy routines or just overlooked the labels. The huge realization here is that infrastructure only gives you the opportunity to act. Sustained behavior requires an iterative solution. They needed repeated social prompts, incredibly clear high-visibility bin instructions, and direct peer assistance from the youth to actively guide them right in the moment. So they figured out an incredibly clear formula for sustained adoption. It requires 3 vital ingredients working perfectly together. First, you need the enabling infrastructure, the 3-stream bins and the restricted taps. But then you have to add faith-based education to give those actions real moral weight. And finally, shared local responsibility to ensure everyone is accountable. Add those up, and boom, you get sustained behavioral change. Let's move to and see how this builds. Section 5. Quantifying the transformation by measuring the knowledge shift. 90%. I mean, wow, that is the staggering success metric of this environmental literacy intervention. To validate that massive jump, let's look at the data from a 25-item knowledge assessment given to 30 mosque stakeholders. Before they did anything, in the pre-test phase, only 20% of participants scored a 75 or higher on environmental literacy. But after the targeted campaigns, the peer education, and the new infrastructure, that number skyrocketed all the way up to 90%. This participatory education model didn't just go in one ear and out the other. It demonstrably improved their entire understanding. Section 6. Scaling the blueprint and taking this grassroots action global. For the Galbun Chakra Mosque, this is honestly just the beginning of an ongoing journey. They've got a really clear roadmap for the future. Right now, they're moving from step 1, resource verification, which means meticulously weighing waste and logging every drop of water and watt of electricity, to step 2, which is developing on-site organic composting systems to completely close the waste loop. And eventually, they are targeting step 3, exploring medium-term advanced infrastructure upgrades, like putting solar photovoltaic panels right on the mosque roof. So the crucial point is that this Kalbun Shakir initiative proves that high-impact environmental management does not require massive capital expenditure up front. This integrated socio-technical design is low cost, and you can replicate it in almost any community facility right now. Because it taps into existing moral authority and trusted social structures, it is incredibly culturally aligned. By starting with simple operational procedures and smart zoning, faith-based facilities can literally empower their neighborhoods to lead the grassroots transition toward global sustainable development goals. Which leaves us with a final, provocative thought for you to take away today. How can you apply this low-cost, behavioral blueprint to transform your own local community center? Whether it's a mosque, a church, a school, or a neighborhood recreation hall, the tools for zero-waste community empowerment are sitting right in front of us. It just takes the right mix of enabling infrastructure, education, and shared responsibility. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this sparks some incredible, sustainable ideas for your own community.